Director, and let me begin by thanking you, dear colleagues from the media, for coming to this press briefing here at Government Complex. And I also would like to extend our sincere thanks to those who are joining us via various platforms right across the country and beyond. As outlined on the list of items to be dealt with, about 6 of them, and one of them that has been alluded to is one to do with access to information, which you, dear colleagues in the media, would like further clarity on, because at every interval of our media engagement, you do bring up this issue. Now, let me take occasion to inform the nation that following Cabinet approval on 30th August 2023 of the Access to Information Bill, and in line with keeping election promises by His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, the government has today taken the Access to Information Bill to Parliament for further consideration, ratification, and enactment. The objects of the Access to Information Bill 2023 are as follows. A, designate the Human Rights Commission as an oversight institution on matters relating to access to information. B, provide for the right to access information and its limitations. C, provide for procedures for processing requests for information. D, give effect to the right to access information as guaranteed in the Constitution, United Nations Convention Against Corruption, and the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. And E, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Therefore, I would like to indicate that this is one of the key, core, and fundamental electoral promises that His Excellency, then as opposition leader, committed himself to fulfilling once elected into office. Like many other promises, today, this particular promise, which some people may have thought was not going to be actualized, has been given a lease of life. The President is aware, his administration is aware that many political leaders and many political parties before have promised, whether in ruling or opposition, to enact an Access to Information Bill which previously had another name. But finally, this has come to fruition The government is delighted to note this milestone because this will enhance the promotion of accountability and transparency, the management of affairs of public matters, particularly public resources. This bill, once enacted, is also going to help in the access to information which is requisite to fighting graft or corruption. Therefore, taking this bill, Parliament is yet another reminder and reaffirmation of the commitment that is unwavering on the part of President HH, not only to live according to electoral promises, but to do the right things and also to confront and fight corruption genuinely without offering just lip service. So, the government looks forward to a robust interaction by various stakeholders that the National Assembly of Zambia may invite as witnesses to go and input into the final outlook and content of what will become the Access to Information Act. And Parliament, with its procedures, will definitely be able to let members of the public at large to know the dates when such kind of conversations through interaction via the select committee of members of Parliament that will be set to hear from stakeholders will be made possible. On the part of the executive through cabinet, them have done their part. It now remains to Parliament to do their part too, so that the Access to Information Act becomes a reality that has eluded this country for a very long time, yet at every election cycle it has been used as a platform of political campaigns to get elected, and once elected, veer off from actualizing an electoral commitment that was made to the people. And we should be able to mention later on some of the promises that were made in terms of legislative amendments to the governance of our country, such as the Public Order Act, which is already under active consideration at the doorsteps of Parliament, is one of those promises made, promises met. This shows the magnanimity of President HH, his leadership and his administration. Let me now come to the other issues that have been highlighted to be the ones amongst which we are interacting with the citizens this morning. The nation will recall that yesterday at Parliament, 19 members of Parliament of the opposition were suspended, with the maximum suspension being 30 days. A lot of comments have since been made to that effect. Some of them that have caused government to ventilate its views on the occurrences and happenings at Parliament. We wish to place on record that the National Assembly of Zambia, as a creature of the Constitution of Zambia, is created and clothed with a legal mandate which stipulates how it conducts its business. And in so saying, the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia has delegated authority to the National Assembly of Zambia to be able to generate and craft its own rules and regulations of conduct of business of the House in what is called standing orders of Parliament, which are supported by conventions obtaining within the Commonwealth, where Zambia is a member, and also practices and precedents obtaining from the National Assembly of Zambia and as well as the Commonwealth. According to the standing orders of the National Assembly of Zambia, there are spelled out rules of conduct of business of the House, including individual members' conduct, behavioral conduct. The rules also provide for sanctions for members of Parliament who violate their own rules and regulations. So yesterday, in exercise of her powers as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, as epitomized through the standing orders of Parliament, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Madam Nelly Muti, in line with the resolutions of the Committee on Privileges and also the resolution of the whole House, suspended 19 members of Parliament for breaches of their own rules bordering on gross misconduct. That and those suspensions are not unprecedented in the Parliament of Zambia. They have happened before. In the recent history, the nation will recall that in about March of 2017, 30 members of Parliament of the United Party for National Development in the opposition there absconded themselves from a presidential address on national values and principles, which earned them a suspension for 30 days, merely absconding themselves for 1 day without creating any disorder to the House whatsoever. They were suspended for 30 days. And the rationale given was that their absenteeism on that particular day was meant to undermine the decorum of the National Assembly on an occasion which is solemn, as the President was addressing the National Assembly. No disorder whatsoever caused or occasioned to the House 30 days. And I would declare interest that I was one of them. And we religiously served that punishment in line with our own rules and regulations. We did not resort to going at large out there to castigate Mr. Speaker and level all manner of allegations and accusations. This background is important for citizens to know that what is happening there at Parliament is normal business of Parliament insofar as it relates to the application of its own rules and regulations. In this particular instance, punishing erring members of Parliament on the floor of the House. The nation also remember that in the same year 2017, Honorable Harry Kalala absconded himself from Parliament, then as member of Parliament for the ruling party PF. He absconded himself from Parliament for 18 days. And when the Committee on Privileges sought to punish him in line with the rules of the House refused to get him punished via a vote where the ruling party MPs refused one amongst their number to be punished despite absconding himself for 18 days. In the same year, the nation may be reminded that in an altercation involving Honorable Shimba Kambwili versus Honorable Jean Kapata and Honorable Bowman Lusam, Honorable Lusambo was suspended from Parliament for 7 days for allegedly slapping Honorable Kambwili. And that Honorable Jean Kapata was not punished, notwithstanding the recommendation of the Committee on Privileges, because members of Parliament of the ruling party voted to protect her despite her travesty in terms of the regulations and the rules wherein she poured water on Honorable Kambwili. This history is important for the nation to know, because there could be those who are first starters to understand rules of the House and punishments thereof, that in this particular instance of members of Parliament, of our dear colleagues belonging to the opposition, there is no politics involved. This is how Parliament operates. They have their own rules to govern themselves. So, there is no hand of the executive, there is no hand of President HH there is no ill will on the part of government that the occurrences in Parliament should be as they are. May I indicate at this stage, therefore, you can hold the speaker, you can close out the speaker, and please let's have our phones off. Just say no. So let me also take this opportunity here to indicate that yesterday at Parliament, it was normal business of Parliament in accordance with the rules of the House, and that there was no additional police presence at Parliament as alleged by Honorable Bino Mpundu. Or is it one of our colleagues in the opposition that the suspensions took place amidst unprecedented police presence? There was no additional police presence to the usual parliamentary police that oversee transactions and security around Parliament, and also the presence of Zambia police officers who escort the Vice President in their usual ordinary numbers. Government wishes to indicate at this stage that it is deeply concerned with the conduct of members of Parliament recently at Parliament, the way they have held themselves out. We wish to remind members of Parliament of the desire of the head of state who, in swearing the clerk of the National Assembly of Zambia a few weeks ago, urged Parliament to transact the people's business with dispatch and expeditiously, because parliamentarians convene and transact parliamentary business at a great cost to the taxpayer. Therefore, most of the time that is spent at Parliament should be devoted to optimal utilization of time resource, cognizant of the fact that parliamentarians gather there to debate for and on behalf of the nation, its citizens, their electorates, and that they look forward to parliamentary debate with hope that solutions that will attend to the challenges affecting the nation may be prescribed out of that contestation of ideas and not contestation of emotions and partisan views. The government, therefore, urges all parliamentarians to be cognizant of that reality, and that the recent happenings at Parliament do not speak to the honor and decorum assigned to that house. It is very true that the punishments that were meted out yesterday are not novel, they are not new, but the incidents of misconduct on the floor of the House are quite hair-raising and causing consternation in the minds of many citizens who expect parliamentarians to behave with a certain level of minimum threshold below which they may not dissent. Let me come to the second issue, the supposed impeachment of the Speaker of the National Assembly that our colleagues in the opposition are talking about. Article 83 of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia provides for the removal of the Speaker of the National Assembly as follows. Actually, with your permission, dear colleagues, I'll read Article 3 from Article 83.1 to Article 83.3 for clarity of submission. Article 83.1, removal of Speaker on specified grounds. A member of Parliament, supported by at least 1/3 of the members of Parliament, may move a motion of the removal of the Speaker or Deputy Speaker, alleging that the Speaker or Deputy Speaker has A. violated this Constitution, B. a mental or physical disability that makes the Speaker or Deputy Speaker incapable of performing the functions of the office of Speaker or Deputy Speaker, or E. committed gross misconduct. 2. Article 83, sub-article 2. The motion shall specify the particulars of the allegation. Sub-article 3. Where a motion is supported by a resolution of 2/3 of the members of Parliament, the Speaker or Deputy Speaker shall be suspended from office, and the National Assembly shall refer the matter to a parliamentary committee. End of quotes. I think the gist has been caught of the relevant portions to respond to the purported impending impeachment of the Speaker. It is therefore very clear from reading the Constitution that this particular requirement of the removal of or impeachment of the Speaker amounts to an entrenched provision, but not to the extent of the meaning of entrenchment when talking about the Bill of Rights. It requires 2/3 majority of members of Parliament, and simple arithmetic would indicate that there will be a requirement of about 110 members of Parliament to vote for that motion to pass. Now, the proponents of this impeachment, their numbers are nowhere near 2/3 majority. In fact, the Patriotic Front's numbers are way below 60. So less than 50% of the required number of members of Parliament to pass an impeachment motion. You will recall that this 2/3 majority is a requirement at the same level as amending the Constitution. Let me also take this opportunity to indicate that an inquiry has revealed that there are no members of parliament from the ruling party who are complicit to this impeachment that the opposition are talking about. There are no members of parliament from the ruling party collaborating and in complicity with those in the opposition promulgating the idea of impeachment of the Speaker. Quite to the contrary, even the list this thus far already signed by members of the opposition, parliamentarians, a number of them have not signed. They have refused to sign, and some have come out in public, and it is in public domain. So, the question that begs an answer is, what is the motivation of members of parliament, some members of parliament from the opposition, talking about mooting an impeachment when in fact every evidence backed by law suggests that such an impeachment motion is an act in futility? It can only be presupposed that this impeachment is schemed to undermine the decorum and the exalted esteem and integrity of the speakership and the persona of the office bearer, Madam Nelly Muti, who is a celebrated and distinguished and accomplished lawyer of impeccable and unquestionable character, professionalism, and astuteness. She has worked for many years in the legal fraternity, where there are stringent requirements of behavior at personal level and even professionally. We are not aware of any record where she has been summoned to appear before the Legal Practitioners Committee of the Law Association of Zambia for want of good behavior and professional conduct. So, the much talked about impeachment within the circles of the opposition, therefore, is a political program and not one that can see the reality of day. We want to urge our colleagues in the opposition that within the rules of parliament, there are provisions to deal with challenges that arise in the House, where, for instance, members are not satisfied with rulings or conduct of presiding officers. There is recourse to challenging such rulings of the Speaker or presiding officers or conduct of the business of the House by the presiding officer. Those provisions are very clear and well laid out and known. So where one member of parliament feels aggrieved, those issues have been attended to. I must concede also at this stage and declare interest that at some point I'm one of the persons who has had the opportunity, firstly, to be punished by the House for one simple reason, that Mr. Speaker asked me to sit down and I hesitated. It is nothing to do with my refusal to apologize to the Vice President there. It is something to do with the Speaker calling to order the House because I was being interrupted in my debate and he asked me to sit down, and because I was shocked with the comments that were coming from across the aisle, I remained standing. By the time I sat down and Mr. Speaker admonished the House, I left the House before I could complete my debate. And I was suspended for 30 days for abandoning my debate. 30 days on a point of order raised by my own dear colleague, Honorable Campion. 30 days. But deep down, I knew that I was being punished for refusing to apologize. I knew that. But then the issue is, I did not go back to the House just like other members to go and cause disorder in the House. I sought to challenge the ruling of the Speaker through existing channels of the House. And that's what we request our dear colleagues to resort to. And where you have exhausted your local remedies and find that there is still an injustice you feel has been inflicted upon or occasioned upon you, you are at liberty to seek recourse with the courts of law. So we find it difficult to understand as government how parliamentarians who make laws can fail to find breadth and recourse within the laws they make, so that some of the degeneration of disorder currently being observed in Parliament can be something that can be avoided. Let me quickly now to come to the issue of the recognition of the leadership of the opposition in the House. Mr. Kapata, where have you taken one of my documents which I have not seen? Okay, I have it here. Recognition of the leadership of the opposition in the House. I wish to state from the inception, as I talk about this issue, which has raised a lot of national debates, that the issues herein are purely legal in nature, and in so doing, I have liaised with my counterpart, the Honorable Minister of Justice, Honorable Haimbe, State Council and MP, on the position of government in relation to the matters raised by Mr. John Sangwa SC and other citizens who may have made similar or allied comments to the same. Further, guidance was sought from the learned Attorney General on the legal position of government on the issues raised, which position I am now conveying as Chief Government Spokesperson, as I now do here under. Number one, whether the Speaker acted unconstitutional in changing the leader of the opposition. Article 74(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia provides that the political party with the largest number of seats in the National Assembly appoints, and I emphasize, appoints the leader of the opposition and not the Speaker. Further, Standing Order number 43(2) of 2021 provides that the political party that appoints the leader of opposition communicates the decision in writing to the Speaker. In the case in Kasu, the present case, Mr. Ngona, the registered Secretary General of the Patriotic Front, communicated to the Speaker that the Patriotic Front had elected Mr. Robert Chabinga, MP, Mafinga PF, Mafinga Constituency Member of Parliament, as leader of opposition, replacing Mr. Brian Munduwire, MP for Poroposo. The Speaker acknowledged the communication and effected the changes in line with Article 74(2) of the Constitution. Therefore, the Speaker did not act unconstitutional or illegal. In any event, determination of constitutional breaches is the preserve of the Constitutional Court under Article 128 of the Constitution of Zambia, and not an individual. But an individual can merely allege. An individual is at liberty to move the Constitutional Court where there is an allegation of violation or contravention of the Constitution. Number 2, whether the Speaker acted unconstitutional in changing the whip. Standing Order number 48 of 2021 of the National Assembly of Zambia provides that the opposition political party with 10 or more members of Parliament may appoint a whip and deputy whip for the opposition or within the opposition ranks. In the present case, Mr. Ngona, the registered Secretary General of the Patriotic Front, communicated to the Speaker that the Patriotic Front had elected Mr. Anton Mumba, MP for Kantanshi, as whip. The Speaker acknowledged the communication and effected the changes in line with the Standing Order number 48 as aforesaid. Therefore, the Speaker did not act unconstitutional and or illegal. Let me, at this particular moment, draw the attention of you, dear colleagues, the media, and the nation to buttress the legal provisions that I have just communicated in terms of the practice and traditions of the House based on the law. I will again start by drawing you and your attention to Article 74 of the Republican Constitution, particularly Article 74(2). Article 74 provides for leader of government business and leader of opposition. We shall go to the relevant portion. Article 74(2). The opposition political party with the largest number of seats in the National Assembly shall elect a leader of the opposition from amongst the members of parliament who are from the opposition. End of provision. I want to indicate here that arising from this provision, in terms of the practice at Parliament, this provision does not provide for the following. It does not provide for the Electoral College in terms of numbers or minimum thresholds, as the case is when electing all other presiding officers and office holders of Parliament. It does not prescribe the Electoral College. Number two, there is no procedure elected. When electing the Speaker, for instance, there is a laid down procedure of how a Speaker is to be elected, how the ballot is to be cast. There is no mention of minimum numbers of members of Parliament to be in attendance at such kind of an election of leader of opposition. Therefore, rendering this portion of the Constitution to have a lacuna. This is one of those examples of the Constitution of 2016 amendments which was opposed by the people of Zambia through the opposition, UPND, then in the opposition, who voted clause by clause overnight of this entire constitution, that it had and was full of lacunas. But the arrogance of numbers carried the day. The whole nation now is being made to be dragged into a debate which was a creation of those who are now saying they are victims. This constitution because there is no procedure provided, and what I've also here elucidated unto, Parliament has resorted to its own precedents and practices, because precedent and practice becomes law where there is no express provision of statutory law. So, how have we recognized leader of opposition as National Assembly of Zambia in the past? I will draw you to two examples. Number one, a letter here dated 26th September 2016 from the United Party for National Development, UPND, the Secretary General's office, to the Clerk of the National Assembly of Zambia. Dear Madam, reference appointments. Can refer to the above subject. Please be informed that at the meeting held on 22nd September 2016, the party resolved that the members below shall occupy the following positions. Leader of Opposition, Jack J. Mwinyi. Whip, Honorable Gary Nkombo. Great Lakes Region, Representative Honorable Elijah Muchima and Honorable M. Rubeshi. Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Professor Geoffrey Rungwangwa and Honorable C. Mazoka. SADC Parliamentary Forum, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwani, Honorable Chushi Kasanda. Parliamentary Service Commission, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwani and Honorable Brenda Tambatamba. Yours faithfully, Stephen Katuka, Secretary General of the UPND. This was after this constitution was in place, because of the lacuna that Article 74 provides. Article 74.2 provides Parliament had to proceed with this notification, and Honorable Jackie Mwembu became leader of opposition, and all other office holders in line with this notification from Secretary General of the UPND. So, who were in government who were communicated to and recognized this? It was our dear colleagues, the Patriotic Front. And at law, when there is a subsisting right which you acquiesce or forfeit, it means later on you cannot come to claim a right which you slept over. They themselves slept over this right, because when they were communicated to, when this correspondence was communicated, they should have alleged illegality. They accepted. Now, how can what was normal under their leadership in government all of a sudden become abnormal and illegality and unconstitutional? We leave that to the people of Zambia to make a judgment. This is a letter dated 31st August 2021, Patriotic Front, the Clerk of the National Assembly. Dear Madam, reference, appointment of leader of the opposition, party whip and deputy party whip. I wish to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated 27th August 2021, referenced National Assembly of Zambia 9/7, requesting our party to furnish Honorable Mr. Speaker with the names of members of Parliament appointed as leader of the opposition and the members appointed as party whip and party deputy whip. In view of the above, I wish to inform you that the party held a caucus meeting between members of the Central Committee and members of Parliament and resolved to nominate the following. 1. Leader of the opposition, Honorable Brian Mundubile. 2. Party whip, Honorable Stephen Kampioko. 3. Deputy party whip, Honorable Joe Malanji. I hereby submit for your consideration and action, yours faithfully, Davis Muila, Secretary General. This is PF writing. And just like the one from the UPND, the Speaker acknowledged and acted accordingly. There was no requisition of information as to whether consultations indicated in the communique were actually done or not. There was no requirement whatsoever to authenticate by collaborative evidence whether what Mr. Davis Mwila was saying was actually the party position or not. I want to clarify this, that there has been some sentiments to the effect, and this my former lecturer, John Samba, did make mention about the idea that these matters of who is the genuine leader of PF are actually in court, and therefore the Speaker would not have acted. Government does not want to entangle itself on explaining legalities, because that's a preserve of the court. However, there is an inescapable obligation to indicate here to the nation so that they are not misled and misinformed by people holding themselves as leaders of opinion about the situation of recognition of leader of the opposition in line and in relation to the disputes and wrangles obtaining within the Patriotic Front, and therefore who is an official office bearer. It is beyond dispute that by the very act and by reason only that the other members of the Patriotic Front sought to injunct or place an injunction to stay Mr. Miles Samba and his team to be official representatives of the Patriotic Front, and the same, the injunction being thrown out by the court, that in itself leaves, for the time being and at that time, legitimatizes Mr. Miles Samba and his team insofar as recognition of who is the office bearer for the time being, while we await for the full extent of how they will resolve the matter as a family, whether they will sit to negotiate or whether these matters will have to be resolved by the courts of law. And we are making these comments for one purpose and reason only, not to take any sides as government, but to speak in defense of a government office, that of a speaker, which is unnecessarily being dragged in this debacle. The speaker only acted in line with the practice of Parliament. And I can also tell you, Parliament has some of the best, researched lawyers who inform management of Parliament and also members of Parliament. And I'm not saying what they say is cast in stone. The courts will always have a final say. But it is important for the nation to know that as we speak, the Speaker of the National Assembly acted within the existing rules, regulations, and the law governing the conduct of business of the House, including the practices and precedents of Parliament, such as these two letters that were communicated to the Speaker before, and those who were named in these correspondences took up position. It is not up to the Speaker to reject a correspondence coming out of an entity holding itself as the official office bearer, given the circumstances and considering at that moment an injunction which had been thrown out restraining Honorable Mayo Sampa and his team holding themselves as official office bearers, therefore legally leaving them with authority to transact on behalf of the PF, which is not the business of government, which is not the business of the National Assembly of Zambia and the Speaker. It is their own business, and we are calling upon them to resolve this political malaise and quagmire they seem to be stuck in, so that national debate can revert back to talking about issues of national importance such as the economy. We would not, as a country, be where we are here today, talking about wrangles of an opposition political parties and how mishandling of the same has a spillage over effect into the governance of our country. If only our colleagues had moved expeditiously. They have lived for 2 years without a leader. 2 solid years without a leader. And like we've stated before, it is imperative for us to comment on the state of the opposition, because what obtains there affects the general democratic and political serenity of our political environment. We are not taking sides, but we get concerned when institutions of government and office bearers in government are going to be demeaned and ridiculed when they are simply trying their best to live within the framework of the law that guides and shapes the precincts of their mandate. It becomes very dangerous for us to keep quiet. That is why we are commenting on these issues. Let me quickly just make a few comments with the issue that is emerging as a major talking point within the political discourse. The issue to do with alleged shrinking of the democratic space in Zambia. Let me indicate here that a request to defend, promote, and uphold human rights and civil liberties as guaranteed by our Constitution of the land, the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, has done inter alia, among others, the following. 1. Restoration of the rule of law by way of exemplifying the supremacy of the law, equality of all citizens before the law, no arbitrary action by those occupying public office, and respect for and recognition for human rights by government. By this, the New Dawn administration, President HH, has stamped out Kadarism in Zambia in all its manner of description. Hooliganism and thuggery behavior, all in the name of being a supporter of the ruling party, has been consigned to the doldrums of political obscurity, we just remember that there once was this kind of environment. Today, all genuine supporters of the president have heeded his call to maintain civility even when you are conducting politics. Through this restoration of the rule of law, political violence has been stamped out. We just emerging out of by-elections last 2 weeks, and for many parts of the country where the by-election was not obtaining, the nation was unaware of the existence of these by-elections ongoing because there were no flashpoints of violence which were a constant reminder of electioneering under the previous administration. Shrinking democratic space in Zambia. The president, as commander-in-chief of the defense forces, has ensured and stamped out police brutality. In 2 years of New Dawn administration, there is no single Zambian who has been injured by police gunshots. There is no police officer who has shot dead any Zambian in a political interaction affair. Zero. In the last 2 years, police have been encouraged consistently to work with civility. The nation will recall the appearance at force headquarters of Socialist Party President or leader, Mr. Fred Membe, who went with a horde of cadres. Police went to that particular event just with tear gas. No one was armed with an offensive weapon such as a gun. And no single tear gas was discharged. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, former president of Zambia, recently, without notice, stormed police headquarters. No tear gas was discharged at him. No shootings were recorded. No cadres were mobilized to prevent him. And he interacted with police in a civil manner. Tuned back a few years ago, President HH, then leader of the opposition, is invited by the police to go to force headquarters to go and answer charges that could be described as politically motivated. 2 lives were lost, Joseph Kaunda and Nsama Nsama, with a lot of cadres beaten. By-elections, Kaoma. By-elections in many places were a bloody undertaking. So in the last 2 years, there are no arbitrary arrests bordering on politics. And the president has insisted that anybody alleged to have violated the law who gets arrested, investigate before effecting an arrest. And once you have effected an arrest, give police bond in accordance with the law, and where necessary, if the matter ends up in court, give bail in accordance with the law. And this has been the experience in the last 2 years, except where a political leader who is taken before police has requested police to say, do not begin to transact with me until my lawyers come, or where such a one is a perpetual offender, because the law again provides that if you are a perpetual offender, you are no longer available and amenable to be given police bond and bail, because once released, you are going back to escalate and create other offenses while you are still faced with this one, therefore clogging the courts of law to dealing with one individual or entity of individuals at the detriment of speedy delivery of justice. That is the Zambia we live in today. So when John Sakwa, my former lecturer, says that there is shrinking political space in Zambia, and when we tell them what is their reaction, and goes ahead to use an unpalatable language on his own government, such as stupidity, we think that yes, there is freedom of speech, but him as a parent and as a celebrated lawyer, he can choose words that are commensurate to his esteemed position in society, so that what he says, people can give him a good listening ear. The president has insisted from day one of his governance to guarantee media freedoms. Media freedoms are critical to maintaining and expanding the democratic space, because they provide a platform through which those with divergent political views to those in government will have expression. In 2 years of New Dawn administration of President HH, there is no single record of any media house being threatened to be closed the way we used to see under the previous administration. There is no record whatsoever of any journalist being attacked, beaten, or arrested. Zero. There is no media house. No Post newspaper has been closed. No Prime TV has been closed. No Movie TV has been closed. No Breeze FM has been closed. No DC has stormed a media house to interrupt a going on interview with the leader of an opposition party. No cadres have stormed or disrupted media operations. We have had funerals bordering on paying our last respects to people from the political arena. There is no record of the ruling party cadres turning a graveyard as a fiesta of political violence. Nothing. So, the policy of government remains what it is, that government abhors all manner of political violence. It abhors all manner of restrictive behavior by those in government or those in the ruling party trying to infringe upon the rights of citizens. so that the political marketplace can be free for all to visit, to sell their ideas. This is the Zambia we live in today. I am not aware of any other Zambia. So, Mr. John Sangwa, State Council, we as government respect him and will continue to do so. His contribution to this country is immense in the legal fraternity. He's one of our celebrated legal luminaries. Many lawyers practicing today, including myself, would not have been who we are if it were not for his guiding hand. And we celebrate him. And in the past, he has stood to voice out on behalf of the voiceless. Even now, he must continue to voice out on behalf of the voiceless. Our only concern would be his words should match reality on the ground. Because the Zambia I have described here, it's difficult to fathom the idea that therefore it should be painted to be something totally diametrically opposed to what it is. In the past, even this spectrum and array of journalists, some were bad. Media house, don't come here. I've said so. I'm the Secretary General. It's final. It's final. It is you, colleagues, and you know that. So, citizens, let's not misinform ourselves and misinform the international community who may be looking at us from a distance and may not appreciate in full the extent of the guarantees and enjoyment of our freedoms in this country. The statements that we make have far-reaching consequences insofar as how the international community interacts with us. Presently, President HH is forging a very strong and robust approach to positioning Zambia as a favorable foreign direct investment destination. And you can see what is happening in the economy as a result of that aggressive approach. Let us therefore not join those who have mooted an idea that this government must be brought down, come rain, come sunshine. Whether they do the right things or they do the wrong things, we must all say they are a failure. Zambia is on the right trajectory in terms of its governance record, particularly to do with promotion of human rights. It also goes therefore that to allege failure on the economic front is a clear distortion of fact. When you have a country that is now, for the first time after almost 40 years, under New Dawn administration, return to provision of free education. It's not free because government is paying for it, paying for tuition and examination fees. Return new allowances, which was stripped of students. Make money available for partial withdrawal of NAPSA. Increasing the maize farm gate price so that farmers in rural areas can also benefit from a government that is prudently utilizing its resources for and on behalf of the nation. Increase CDF from 1.6 to 30.7. Social cash transfer on time without abuse. government institutions getting grants on time. So, if I were to ask, these sectors where money has been put, in the previous administration, where was this money going? So, just this provision alone, and it has gone a great deal to cushion home economics. So, in the midst and face of this, to say this government is a failure, I think it is an overstatement. It's an ambitious overstatement of facts. The goodness is that I do not need to labor on that one. The people of Zambia know the truth. Now, there was also an allegation which I thought that I should just quickly make a mention about. Allegation that the president is performing an illegality by Mr. John Sangwa, State Council. For the reason that the president is coming from community house and not resident of the State House. The State Council made submissions in both breaths. He indicated that there was no law that would suggest that what the president is doing is illegal. He himself conceded that. But he went ahead in the other breath to indicate that that is an illegality. We find this contradiction interesting. But we want to live by the book of the law, that unless there was an express law precluding the president to be going back to his house after working at State House, we would have been worried. As to what Mr. Sangwa indicates to be an excessive expenditure on transporting the president from his house and State House, which I think is within the range of 2 kilometers. Expenditure to do with State House is approved by Parliament. He is not drawing money somewhere which has not been approved for the utilization of performing functions at State House. So there cannot be illegality. Now, these people who all of a sudden now have something to say, is it because under the previous administration that regime was so brutal that people would not be allowed to speak their mind? Huh? Because under the previous administration of our colleagues, the Patriotic Front, there was a blatant violation of the law, particularly the Constitution, where in every budget they were bringing to Parliament a provision of a vote to fund office of the First Lady, an office which legally is non-existent in any law known to Zambia. But they were providing for it in the Constitution, and when we vote against it, for all the time they were in government, they beat us because they had numbers. These are some of the illegalities that anybody who wants to talk about illegality should quickly address their minds to and get the culprits to answer. Oh, because funding the First Lady from the national constitution is tantamount to funding any other private entity. But the point I'm making for the time being is that, where were these people? Certainly we need these voices. In the like manner we need it. Colleagues, I've kept you longer. I know you have time deadlines. We shall continue because I'm now here. And those making statements they can't substantiate out there, they are at liberty. We are also at liberty to engage with them so that the nation is not misinformed. We have a beautiful country whose economy is coming out of economic doldrums, resurrecting towards a stability. And as this happens, there will be certain economic challenges that will be faced. And the president and his administration have gone to length to explain that the current economic situation we find ourselves with, particularly to do with cost of living, is because of what we inherited as an economy with an empty treasury. Yet Mr. John Sangwa tells the nation to say the government is not truthful. They are not telling us what the problem is. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. At this point, we will allow a few questions. I think just one set of three, if anyone has any questions. Do we have Lady Media House? Please come forward, sir. Please introduce yourself and the institution you're coming from. If there's anyone else with a question, I'll allow three for this session. You can please come through.
Thank you very much. My name is Mwelo Tresakunda from Financial Insight. Honorable Minister, very elaborate explanation of various national matters. I'd like to turn your attention to the ease of doing business. Do you have any commentary in terms of government's efforts regarding improving the ease of doing business? Thank you very much.
Anyone else with a question before I allow the minister to answer? Please come through.
Could you speak up so that your friends can get you?
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Jessie Bodia. My question is...
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. My name is Prudence Jota. Minister, I appreciate when you say there is media freedom. We've not seen any media closed under the UPND administration, but there is also other means in which media die. For example, if government gives media business and they don't pay. We know ECZ, it's 2 years now. They are owing some media institutions. Majority of media here have not been paid by ECZ. And other institutions, Ministry of Health and others I'm not going to mention. When are we likely to see this payment come through for media institutions so that we can continue to function and play the role of informing the Zambian citizens?
Thank you very much. Minister, you may attend to
Thank you so very much. And I like it when you say yeah. History has consistently shown that the media fraternity is a very right niche to providing a necessary for Parliament to have capable and able members of Parliament. So I look forward to either meeting with you in 2026 in Parliament or watching you in Parliament when I'm no longer there. Thank you very much. The first question, Sakuna, is with which to do business. Financial. Is with which to do business. So the first question. Yours is issue to do with debt. Local debt. So that's a very good question to do with ease with which to do business. The president, I think one of the things that the president has been harping on almost everywhere where he has an interaction is the question of procurement and the question to do with the ease with which to do business. And businesses are varied. Some will require, licenses, for instance. And I can tell you, licenses to do with ZEMA clearance, licenses, form of title deeds from Ministry of Lands. You need it for you to acquire, a credit to invest in a business. There are various licenses. And I can confidently report to the nation that beyond what the President has been able to highlight, Cabinet has actioned on a number of those issues, and that is why you are seeing a plethora of acts of Parliament being brought to Parliament for amendment, such as the Zambia Zambia Public Procurement Act, that is meant to streamline it in terms of procurements to be with ease, and also many of those acts that provide for a requirement such as a license. The government, through the acts that are being taken to Parliament, and I can cite here one to do with ZEMA, Cabinet has already approved in principle that if you apply for a license for ZEMA clearance and within 14 days you do not get, I think it's 14 days, you do not get a response whether or not to proceed, then you are deemed to have met the conditions. That is how serious this President is. And so in the days ahead, weeks and months ahead, you'll be able to see this come through. And that's why there are a number of acts that are before Parliament that have to be dealt with dispatch. Further, the regulatory regime itself should be predictable and attractive. That is why you're finding that, again, any act that stakeholders feel requires that it be attended to, this government is not shy and does not frown upon citizens, be it individuals or legal entities, come through to provide solutions so that it truly will be and continue to be a societal, demand-driven government. Well, a time frame. Time frame for the access to information. I think that on the part of government, time frame would relate to the time frame to do with consultations by the sponsoring ministry up to the stage where Cabinet approves the draft document. Once the document has been conveyed the way it has been conveyed to the National Assembly today, that now remains the baby of the National Assembly, because the National Assembly does not get guidance from the executive. We operate on the basis of the doctrine of separation of powers with limited interference, or what is called permissive interference. So Parliament designates itself the time frame when they are going to interact with stakeholders in line with the stakeholders they may deem require to come and speak to the document. So that is in the exclusive domain of the National Assembly of Zambia, as by law established. The executive doesn't run Parliament. When ministers are in Parliament there, we are not ministers. We are members of Parliament in the Legislative Assembly of our country. I hope I've answered your question. That is the position. So, when that document, the bill is announced on the floor of the House, the Speaker gives a time frame. the Speaker gives a date of commencement of hearings for which we are not the determinants. That's how it is. The executive have absorbed themselves of what was expected of them, in the like manner that when somebody has been arrested by the police, who are the executive arm of enforcement of law and order, or ACC for corruption, and you take 2 months before conviction, we can only appeal to the judiciary to expedite. So, but I think that this is a matter which, for Cabinet to be able to approve, what would be the reason to delay? Because we want, it is actually, this ATI is coming to better governance, which is what is preoccupying President Tshisekedi's mind. Prudence, government owing media houses, like the Electoral Commission of Zambia. There is some good news, I think, for you. I'll answer it generically. That at the last sitting of Cabinet, Monday last week, the President directed that the Ministry of Finance should unlock funds to pay local creditors in order to improve liquidity in the local economy. That is the position of government. So, I can only begin to think that media houses that are owed will be some of the first to be considered, given that one of the criteria for paying local debt is that there should be proof of delivery. And the media houses are known to have delivered to Electoral Commission of Zambia, whereas some outside this fraternity may have to show that they have delivered what they had contracted to deliver. Thank you, friends.
Do you have any other questions? There's a hand, sorry.
Okay, there is a hand. We can be
I have
quick
the last
for
three, and
time,
then you.
or maybe the last. Proceed. Nakaonga.
Yeah, Honorable, just a quick one. I know you think that spent just some time to react to some of the issues that Council Johnson brought out, but there are two statements or comments that he made, which I'd like to get your comment on. And one is where he said that individuals with the best brains are outside government. I just wanted to find out from you if this is something that you disagree or agree with him, in that the ones that are inside government currently are quite the opposite. And the other one is where he said that if Zambia was being successfully run currently, there was no way that former President Edgar Lungu would return to active politics. So I would just want to get your comment on those two. One more, I think this is the last one we're going to accommodate.
Thank you so much for the earlier response, Honorable Minister. My second one is on the BPPD. Are you able to give us an update regarding where it's been? Because it's been in existence for almost 2 years. What progress has been made thus far in terms of rolling out its strategic objectives? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me request that the last question we deal with it in the next briefing, since these briefings are in abundance. Nakaonga. Mr. John Sangwa says that individuals with the best brains are outside government. Again, I would like to indicate here that this is one of the living examples of the expanding democratic space in Zambia, because the president has repealed defamation of the president law. Now, when Mr. John Sangwa State Council says that the best brains are out of government, are outside government, that is his assessment in terms of his opinion. The citizens also have opinions individually, which opinions may not be a convergence of consensus with himself. For instance, the former Secretary General of the Patriotic Front, Mr. Davis Muya, once told the nation that Sangwa is a Dow lawyer. We didn't agree with him. We're actually saying he's the one who is Dow. How can you call an intelligent lawyer like Mr. Sangwa Dow? You must be Dow yourself. The citizens will make their own judgments. If the country was run successfully, ECA would not have come back. Well, again here, Mr. Sangwa may not be paying attention to some of the things that are obtaining on the ground. Maybe he's busy preparing for something else which we don't know. Or busy with legal work is quite consuming. Because Honorable Bowman Lusamo, Rafa Wanakachina, Honorable Given Lubinda, all these substantively have been or may be said to be office holders of the Patriotic Front who are on record, and it is in public domain, that President Lungu never ever resigned as a president for the Patriotic Front. So the question now to say he has returned does not arise. He has always been in active politics. This is what we have been told by the PF. So he has been in active politics. And why has he been in active politics on the other hand, telling the nation that he was resigning? For instance, on the 26th of August, he tendered in a resignation to the Secretary to Cabinet that he has resigned from active politics in line with the requirements of the Zambia Former President's Benefits Act, Cap 15 of the laws of Zambia. Then on the 60th of September, he was again performing active political party function when he appointed certain office bearers within the PF. I think it was Honorable Chilangwa and another. So clearly you can see that this is a PF leader who has never left that position. So Mr. Sangwa is wrong in his assumption that President Lungu has come back because Zambia is not being run properly. President Lungu has never left politics. That is what is on record, both from his political stance and also from his conduct, which is evidenced in writing. So he's making an assumption on the wrong parameters. He should use something else, such as the economy, cost of living, free education, new allowances, recruitment of more than 50,000 public service workers, which was not happening before. So all evidence shows that what is happening presently is better than where we are coming from. So for one to say, we are now in a worse-off situation, there must be something wrong with you. Thank you.
Okay, I think this is where we'll end this press briefing for today. Thank you, Minister, for the issues that you've clarified. Thank you to Minister Kapata, and thank you to Mr. Hachimbi for being with us. And thank you to the radio stations that have also carried this live, who are Baita FM in Southern Province, Breeze FM in Eastern Province, and Sun FM on the Copper Belt. I think we can have a good day. Thank you very much.